using LLMs to communicate with tenants, with potential tenants. The real estate industry is now serving as a model for other industries for how to deploy these technologies safely and efficiently. We've never been a leader.
A white paper whose conclusion is that real estate is now at the vanguard of technology adoption.
I thought that would happen after my death.
Right, right. Okay, so Proptech 101. I feel like this is a great template in which to ask this question. You wrote that, it sounds like in 2018, I'm guessing based on what you had seen for the past 5 years. It needs to go through an update. What has happened in Proptech since 2018?
It's been a roller coaster. We had a category that in the sort of ZERP climate of COVID, that it became one of the hottest categories in the world. I think you had a really hot real estate market, you had a really hot public technology market, you had a really hot venture ecosystem. And so we went through a tremendous period of growth for the sector from, call it 2018 through 2021. And venture capital funding for the category exploded, and in 2021 was almost close to where other categories that we had been talking about earlier, like fintech, were at. 2022, we had, I'll try not to butcher this. I heard you, I was on a panel with you a while back at the Citigroup conference. You made a point of, I think, double negative convexity.
It's actually triple negative.
Triple negative convexity. So what that meant was you had interest rates going up, you had a real estate market that went from boom to bust very quickly, not just on the residential side, but on the commercial side as well. You had financial market turmoil, and then you had a massive sell-off in the public equity markets for high-flying, call it sector-agnostic SaaS and data companies.
And you had, for Proptech, because it's such a unique feature of it, so many of these companies depend on really hard asset intensive capital, and cost of capital spiked. So the OpEx just exploded at some of these fintech companies. And the combination of all those factors, it was like the eye of the storm, the eye of the perfect storm for real estate and Proptech. And so that's 2022, basically.
Yeah, so 2022, we went from being the hottest category within technology and real estate to something that a lot of people actually wanted to avoid. And we saw a lot of the companies that had de-SPACed in that period really starting to struggle. We saw it much harder for companies to raise capital in the private markets. We saw a sell-off of some of the public names in the sector as well. And our approach and the entrepreneur's approach certainly changed then. It moved from counseling companies to, in an era of abundantly available capital and seemingly endless exponential growth, to counseling them and saying, we may not be able to raise another outside equity financing for you. You need to push to efficiency. You need to compromise some of that growth, most likely. Instead of growing 4x year over year, we're comfortable if you're only growing 50 to 100% year over year, but you have to get your bottom line in order. You have to get your expenses in order. You have to become more efficient with how you run your business. And so we saw a lot of companies able to do that, although you can't just turn a battleship around instantly. Even a startup that has 20 to 60 employees, it can't just become profitable overnight, especially in this category. So we saw some companies unable to do that, and ultimately were sold off to larger players or failed and went under. And then, I like to believe the companies that have shown us that they've been able to still grow, albeit at a slower rate, but massively reduce their burn profile and push toward EBITDA profitability. Those companies are emerging now in, we're finding ourselves in Q3 of 2024. they're emerging as much, much stronger companies. And we've seen this year the market coming back. We've seen equity multiples recovering in the public markets for most companies in the category. Some companies that are still very capital intensive, not as much. And then we've seen a rebound in the venture ecosystem and also in the M&A ecosystem, both strategic and private equity M&A for the category. So definitely lots happened. It's been a roller coaster, but I'm very optimistic about the future of the category for sure.
I think we are too. I think we're super optimistic about the category. And one of the questions we get asked a lot is like, what inning are we in Proptech? Meaning in terms of what's possible and how technology would collide with the real estate industry, how far penetrated are we? And my sense is we're like second or third inning. And the reason is that still the vast majority of processes and business operations at the largest real estate companies, LPs of Metaprop, LPs of Fifthwall, are old and antiquated, and they really haven't seen innovation still, despite all this capital that's flown in, despite all this value that's created. What's Metaprop's view on what inning we're in Proptech innovation?
So the first true Proptech software platform, JD Edwards, launched in 1973. That was 50 years ago. We view ourselves in the middle of a 100-year software supercycle, we call it. So that would put us in the fourth or fifth inning. So not so different from how you handicap it.
Assuming it's linear. But my sense is it's actually probably more parabolic than linear. Right. And so do you really think it's the fourth inning? That feels late in terms of where we actually are.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if we can pick up speed and momentum, to your point, these things do compound over time, right? And we're not gonna grow linearly. One example of that I'm really excited about, and when someone said it internally, people thought it was so insane that everyone's like, you need to check that, you need to check that, you need to check that, is that with respect to the new generative AI technologies, LLM adoption, the real estate industry for the first time in our history is a leader, not a laggard. If you look at adoption of things like using LLMs to communicate with tenants, with potential tenants, the real estate industry is now serving as a model for other industries for how to deploy these technologies safely and efficiently. We've never been a leader in any software adoption category. So if that statement I made is true, and we're writing a white paper now to back it up, to actually get the stats, and we're gonna benchmark it against other industries that used to be ahead of us, things like education, financial services, that is super exciting for me. That suggests that we've potentially crossed a chasm in terms of the buyer, the customer, the real estate and construction professional, their adoption curve and their desire to adopt. And just in talking to these people, the sophistication level is massively increased from 10 years ago, exponentially so. These people have divisions set up to look at new technology, which wasn't the case a decade ago. And they're specifically asking us for solutions that they plan to deploy as soon as possible. Right. Whereas 5 years ago, they were asking us for solutions because maybe the CEO of the company said this is something you have to do, and it was more of, I don't want to say a check the box exercise, but it was more of a tire kicking exercise.
That's totally, from our perspective, I would say it also feels like that. The posture, the disposition of the real estate industry as it relates to technology has gone from kind of fear to curiosity to like eager adoption. And I think because almost like as that behavioral organizational change happened, the technology landscape just shifted underfoot, and AI is really the new thing, right, for the real estate industry. So it actually doesn't surprise me that because there's a low baseline level of technology, you've had this organizational shift, and now this kind of like watershed new technology, AI, has come along, that the real estate industry would be a leader. Because what this is in many ways a test of is curiosity and openness to adopting new things, which I definitely feel like the real estate industry is ahead of other industries now, which was totally not the case 5 years ago.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it. And hopefully with this white paper, we'll be able to put some numbers behind that.
When does that come out?
Back it up. Later this quarter.
Oh,
we're gonna
awesome.
put it out.
Awesome. I bet you never thought when you started Metaprop, you'd be writing probably a white paper on AI in general, but a white paper whose conclusion is that real estate is now at the vanguard of technology adoption.
I thought that would happen after my death.
Right. Right.